Great. There you go, Jean.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is Jean Thurston Keller again. Part of BOEM's renewable energy authorization process is not only listening to public comments, but hearing and doing something about it. And one of the several things that we have done is a visual simulations study for the Oregon public in direct response to the comments we received from the call for information nominations. So BOEM started the visual sims study in late 2022, and we completed it in May of 2023. This study included simulations of hypothetical offshore wind turbines reflecting 20 megawatt size commercial scale offshore wind turbines. This is based on estimated future specifications that we got from the National Renewable Energy Lab. This was in response to input we received regarding visual impacts from potential offshore wind development in the call areas. So these are visual simulations of hypothetical offshore wind turbines in the draft wind energy areas. And these simulations will help inform BOEM on future planning efforts, including designation of any final wind energy areas. And we'll be sharing these at the upcoming public meetings we have planned. I want to emphasize that these are hypothetical offshore wind turbines and not real ones. This turbine size is not developed nor commercially available yet, and was used for simulation purposes only, to reflect what an offshore wind facility may look like. Study participants included members of Oregon tribal nations, the Oregon Department of Parks and Recreation, and the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development. The participants got together and collaboratively determined 6 key observation points, or KOPs. These KOPs had variable elevations as well as different angles to maximize the range of views to the hypothetical turbines, and to kind of provide a broad look of what offshore wind turbines could look like from shore. We had visual experts develop the simulations to provide spatially accurate and realistic visual simulations of hypothetical offshore wind projects. And I want to emphasize that BOEM requires lessees to provide additional visual simulations for actual projects prior to construction when they have a specific plan for an offshore wind project. So if BOEM does move forward in Oregon waters, there would still be more simulations done for an actual project in advance of it being built. Next slide. So the study included a series of photographs to simulate turbines at 4 different times of day. These included morning, noon, late afternoon, and then as well as nighttime. A meteorological report was also prepared. It detailed the weather and visibility conditions over a 10-year period. This was used from local weather data from weather stations. And the simulations included both typical weather conditions, what an average day in Oregon would look like from shore, but also ideal weather conditions for viewing, where there would be maximum visibility of turbines. And the weather and visibility report I just referenced is available online along with the simulations. It's at www.boem.gov/Oregon. The study also included 2 time-lapse videos simulated at the Umpqua Lighthouse and Harris Beach locations, and those are also available online. For the nighttime simulations, the study used BOEM's lighting and marking guidelines, and these guidelines were developed with the Federal Aviation Administration and the U.S. Coast Guard. Their recommended lighting to ensure meeting safe maritime and aviation navigation requirements. Next slide. So here's a map of the draft wind energy areas, the call areas, and the 6 key observation point locations. Like I mentioned earlier, the visual sims are available online, but we recommend, however, in-person viewing, which you can do at our public meetings next week. And we are actively looking for other viewing locations and opportunities. And I'll provide information about the public meetings when we talk about next steps and public input opportunities. If you are interested in hosting a viewing location for these simulations, please contact us. We have already worked with the Oregon Department of Parks and Recreation to have these sims available, and we're interested in hosts at multiple locations up and down the coast. But again, we will be showing them at our public meetings coming up. Next slide. Thanks, Jamie. I think we can get into next steps now. So next slide. So BOEM identified 2 draft wind energy areas, or draft WIAs, which we published in the Federal Register last month. WIA A, which is located within the Coos Bay call area. It's a little over 61,000 acres, could potentially produce 740 megawatts of electricity. And it's 32 miles from shore and 40 miles to the port of Coos Bay. There was also draft WIA B, which is located within the Coos Bay, the Brookings call area. And that one is 158,364 acres, could produce up to almost 2 gigawatts. It's 18 miles from shore and 23 miles to the port of Brookings. Next slide. So, as I mentioned, we published the draft wind energy areas in the Federal Register for public comment on August 15th for a 60-day public comment period. So in order to submit public comments, we have several ways that you can do that. And we also have several supporting documents that accompany the draft wind energy areas. These documents include the completed visual simulations that I discussed at just a few slides ago, but also a detailed 186-page in-cost modeling report. So all the information from the modeling that you heard from James and Jessica, that's also available online, as well as maps and shape files. And these are all at www.boem.gov/Oregon. And there are several ways to submit comments, such as going to the official Federal Register website, listed here at regulations.gov. You enter the docket number and it will kind of walk you step by step on how to provide comment. There's also, you can submit a letter by mail to BOEM, and the address is in the request for comment. That document is on the Federal Register at regulations.gov. It's also available on our website at boem.gov/Oregon. And you can also attend a fishing specific webinar this Thursday, September 21st. Or later today, at the end of this meeting, we will be taking public comment. You can also attend one of the 3 public meetings next week and provide comment at one of the dedicated comment stations. And in a few slides coming up, I'll have the details on these meetings. Next slide. Thank you, Ariana, in the chat. So since we published the draft wind energy areas, we've been engaging with stakeholders, especially the Pacific Fishery Management Council. We met with them several times, as well as the Oregon Ocean Policy Advisory Council. Coming up, we have today's meeting with public comment at the end, and then we also have the fishing webinar later this week. Next week, we'll be meeting with Oregon's coastal communities in person in cities where the draft wind energy areas are. And we will also be bringing visual simulations for you to see in person. We will also continue consultation with tribal nations. Next slide. So we have 3 in-person public meetings in the cities of Gold Beach, Coos Bay, and Brookings, September 26th through 28th. Each meeting will be a 4-hour open house. We strongly encourage everyone to attend. At these public meetings, we'll have details and information on offshore wind, the planning process in Oregon, the NCOS team, as well as several of BOEM's subject matter experts will be there to answer your questions in person. And we will also have the visual simulations and large printouts displayed for viewing. I do want to highlight that there is a venue change location for Gold Beach. It is no longer at the event center that's being used as a firefighting staging area due to some fires in the area. So luckily the Gold Beach Community Center was gracious enough to accept us at short notice. So we're really happy that we were able to work with them and have a place for us to meet with the community at Gold Beach. So again, those are all from 4 to 8 p.m. up there on your screen. These are also available on our website. Next slide, please. We also have an informational fishing webinar. This will be a 3-hour webinar. You can register online for it at boem.gov/Oregon. Follow the links. It will also take you through how to register. I want to highlight that there are several slides and links that provide really useful background information on the fishing data and how it was developed and discussed with the Pacific Fishery Management Council. The links are provided here, and we will have this presentation up after the meeting in probably a day or two. We're going to try our best to get it up on quick. We strongly encourage anyone who has an interest in the fishing industry to attend this meeting. Next step, next slide. So BOEM is asking for public comment. This will help us determine any potential final wind energy areas. The comment period is not the last opportunity to provide feedback into BOEM's renewable energy authorization process. If final WIAs are designated, BOEM would conduct an environmental review under the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. The NEPA process includes multiple public input opportunities as well. And then any further WIAs may be further reduced based on feedback we received during the NEPA process. So again, that winnowing that Director Klein talked about, it's a continual process as we understand more and more about the areas. Next slide. Finally, I'd like to close with an overview of BOEM's renewable energy authorization process. Our process has 4 phases: the planning and analysis phase, the leasing phase, site assessment phase, and then finally construction and operations. I want to emphasize that each phase builds on the previous phase and goes at the pace really that it needs. Every state is different, and we incorporate several opportunities for public input throughout the process. So right now we are at the planning and analysis phase in the area identification, sort of that black bar on the left-hand side of your screen. So just want to put this up for a moment. Thank you for you all to see. This timeline is an estimate. Again, it's not written in stone, but I think it gives a flow of how our process works in a logical way. Thank you.
And so we're a little